Hello, and we are here with Michelle Pacansky-Brock, and she has been organizing the Launchpad for the Emerging Technology Conference. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Would you like to give us a brief overview of your background and who you are?
Sure, yeah. I have a pretty diverse background, actually. Let's see, I've been teaching in higher education since 1999. My background is teaching in the community college system in California. And I've primarily been teaching at the community college level and also do a lot of faculty development work supporting the California community college system for the past several years. And most recently I have joined CSU Channel Islands as an instructional technologist supporting their online and blended learning. And I'm actually doing that remotely, which is something new and different for the institution, and I'm really excited about that opportunity. And I am the author of Best Practices for Teaching with Emerging Technologies, and I've also authored an ebook titled How to Humanize Your Online Class with VoiceThread. So I'm a big user of Web 2.0 social media tools. I'm very passionate about how they can engage students.
You have a great social presence and a big following of people who know what you're doing and want to hear sort of your takes on things and what's working well, and which I think is fantastic that you're sharing so much with the community.
Yeah, it's all come through my sharing, like you just said. I mean, I started blogging in 2007 just because I think more than anything else I was so excited about everything I was learning, the new tools I was using, and I wanted to share that with people. And that was I literally created my blog at a conference I went to. I was in a session being taught by two teachers, and they taught me how to create a blog in that conference session, and that's what my blog just kept going and going and going, and it's just evolved into this space that I've done a lot with over the years. And yeah, it's connected me with lots of people around the world, and I have had lots of conversations through my blog, and then of course that's evolved into all different types of social spaces with different tools over the years.
So just one small step just led to
Absolutely,
a whole world.
Yeah.
Because that's been a big question that people have been asking is, how do I get started, or how do I do something? And it just seems so insurmountable.
Yeah, it does seem insurmountable, but I think that that's just not what to think about. I think what to think about is, what is it that you want to share? What's your passion? What's your expertise? What is it that would bring people to you? And then find one place to share it through. So, some people are most active on Twitter, and I think I am now. As Twitter has emerged, my blog is less active than it used to be. So my blog used to be my space where I was most active, but now I'm more active on Twitter, and Twitter has changed what I put on my blog, right? So now my blog is my longer posts, but Twitter, I share resources and connect with other people in shorter incremental, tweets on Twitter. And so I think that it's important to be using a social presence to build your personal learning network and, brand yourself as an expert in some space, because there's so many opportunities today with where we are with emerging technologies to blossom and grow and expand yourself. And, my book that I wrote, perfect example, Best Practices for Teaching with Emerging Technologies, published by Routledge. Susan Coe, the editor, she approached me and asked me if I wanted to author the book because of what she had read on my blog. And she had interviewed me for her book previously, but it all came through my blog, and that's how she knew of me. So having that presence is what established me as a credible individual in my field. So there's a lot that comes with sharing. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of credibility that you can create for yourself in a certain space by participating, and I think that's important to know. In this world where, particularly more than half of our classes in higher education are taught by part-timers, and things are shifting so much. And I look at part-timers today and I think there's a lot of opportunities for you to become an entrepreneur and, do some pretty amazing things today. So, brand yourself and grow.
Right, and it's amazing the connections you make. I mean, this is the first time I've ever had the opportunity to talk to you one-on-one.
Yeah,
But
that's
I know
right.
you. Like, I feel like I know who Michelle is, and I know what she believes and her philosophies and where she shares. And so it's like you really have that ability to connect with such a wide audience, and you never know where it's going to take you.
I think that these conferences are so neat for that reason. I just met Patrick Lowenthal. I just wrote a chapter in a book that he co-edited, and I just met him face to face, and we had been going back and forth for months on stuff, and I've read so much of his work, and we've tweeted and emailed and everything else. But yeah, every year there's people that I meet face to face that I have developed this virtual relationship with, and also not only that, but I have people who just approach me like after my sessions and so forth, and they'll say, you don't know me, but I've read your blog or I follow you on Twitter and I've learned so much from you. And those kinds of experiences are they're precious. They really mean a lot. I always tell people, thank you.
Right.
Send me a message anytime. It makes me feel really good inside. It's really nice to hear those things. Yeah.
It is, and it is amazing how connected, like for you and Patrick, when people said that online can't be done, it's like those experiences, it's like absolutely it can be. I mean, I've seen students at graduation, and it's I feel like they're some of my closest students. So it is amazing how those connections form.
Completely.
But, so all the great work you've been doing, and you've really put in a lot of work with the Launchpad, how did that all come about?
It's a really interesting story. I guess it was two years ago. So this is our second annual Launchpad. So last year we had the first one, and then the year before that we were debriefing after this conference, and we were taking note of how many entrepreneurs there were in attendance at this conference at ET4 Online as participants. And someone was saying, well, why aren't they in the exhibition hall? Why don't they have booths if they're, owners of companies? And the conversation was going on, and basically saying, well, they're startups. They don't have the money to have a booth. They're here to interact. And, because I had gotten several cards and other people had gotten cards. And at the time, that's really when there had been the beginning of this real explosion with edtech startups, and a lot of venture capitalist money has gone into edtech startup companies, and so there's a lot of startup companies right now trying to improve education through technology. And so we basically said, well, we should have a special place for them because they should be here. They're part of this formula. They're part of this recipe. They're part of this conversation is the bottom line. I mean, here we are at this conference, and we have these sessions where faculty and educators, I should say, primarily educators, are coming to share how they're using emerging technologies currently in online learning. But then there's this other part of it. What about the tools that are so new and emerging that they're not even being used yet? And they're not so developed yet that they have a full staff or even a full booth. Right? They don't even have really all the bling that goes in a booth yet, right? The Launchpad, that's them right behind me, right?
Yeah.
And so that's, we said, well, let's do it. Let's come up with a special place for them. And so that's what the Launchpad was basically deemed to be. And we really wanted to keep the focus on learning, not so much on this product exhibition space. And so after the first year, last year, we got some really fabulous feedback from the participants that were in the Launchpad last year. I think we had six Launchpad participants last year. And it is it's a competitive application process, so they have to apply, and we have actually a criteria that the subcommittee basically reviews every application against this criteria, and we select a certain number of participants for the event. And we got great feedback last year. They said they, had great interaction, great exposure for their products, and we actually have one sponsor this year, Ginkgo Tree, that was a Launchpad participant last year, and so it's great to see them grow, and it's just so exciting. And there's so much inspiration and energy around the entrepreneurs. I mean, I love talking to them, and what's really exciting, I think, for the participants, to have the opportunity to walk up to one of the Launchpad booths, not only the energy, but they're so curious. They have a product, but they want to know what do you think about this, right? They really want feedback. And that's why I love using those tools so much. I mean, when something doesn't work, and I expect things to not work sometimes, but I know that when I give that feedback is going to be taken with open arms, and it's going to make a difference in their product. And so I think that it's just a different kind of relationship, and it's pretty special.
So how do you think that this supports the mission of the conference?
Well, like I said, I see it as part of the conversation. I see it as augmenting the conversation and really adding value to it. Because as educators using technology in online learning, we're trying to improve the way that we teach online through technology. I mean, that's what we're doing with online learning. And when you come to this conference, right, we're sharing how we're doing that. And so now what we're having the opportunity to do is to get in touch with the tools of tomorrow rather than just the tools of today. And so I think it very much expands that mission, but it also, in a way, creates this new paradigm of this new ecosystem. I think that it's still a little bit maybe stunning for some of us in higher education to think about startups as part of our ecosystem. Right? But they very much are. I mean, they really are. When we're talking about teaching with emerging technologies, that's part of that conversation. And so having a conversation with them is going to lead to a much more productive future and a higher quality products in the future if we are able to start the conversation with them and include them in the dialogue with education now, versus just, oh, let me take that tool and use it with my students and see what happens. Well, let's have the conversation now, give some feedback, and look at it as more of a, an interaction and an ecosystem. I guess that's the word I keep going back to. But I'm trying to paint a new picture, for the space that we're in today.
Right. So are there other sort of things that we haven't talked about with the Launchpad that you think that the community should know about, or?
I would just say I'm not really sure who's going to be viewing the video. I just want to say if you're here at the conference, you've got to check them out. But we set up a Twitter list of everyone that is on the Launchpad, and that's a really easy thing to subscribe to. And Twitter is a really great way to just kind of follow companies and stay in touch with what's happening with them. And so that's something I would recommend doing.
Right.
And it's really fun to see how they grow and become popular and
there
that
is
sort of
great
thing.
Information online too. So in
Absolutely.
case someone's watching this, they can always go back to the conference site.
Yes, the conference website has all the logos, and you can click on each logo and get information about each company as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being with us today and giving us an overview.
Yeah.
And again, for all of your hard work. I know you've been very busy, and it's a busy time for you, so I really appreciate you taking
Thanks
time.
for having me.
Have a great day.
Okay, thanks.